All right. So yesterday we continued talking about carbohydrates, sugars, which is the primary currency that pays our body to work. Uh, we finished up yesterday talking a little bit about glycogen. And what glycogen is kind of pre-converted glucose. Your liver is saving up for a rainy day. When your blood glucose begins to drop and your body is having to make decisions on what to turn off, what to keep on. We really can't wait the length of time that it's going to take to catabolize or break down your stored energy and convert it. It's far too big of a process. So while we're waiting for that process to occur, your liver has this pre-converted glucose called glycogen, and it can very quickly convert that into glucose, shoot that out into your blood, and that will carry you over until your body now has time to finish catabolizing and converting your adipose tissue into usable energy. So that glycogen is mostly stored in the liver. kind of helps because that's where all of our energy is converted, and it can be very rapidly turned into glucose. So it's just kind of a stopgap that we can use to fill in the time between us losing the blood glucose, having it drop, and having our adipose tissue catabolize and be converted into usable energy. When does our blood glucose drop? Well, when you're using energy, but you haven't taken in any new sources. So we're going to see our glucose dropping in between meals because you finished your external gluconeogenesis, and then your blood glucose begins to drop if you have times of extreme energy use and your energy intake has not satisfied that. So those are really the times, or when you're sitting in class and you haven't eaten breakfast, your blood glucose starts to go down into the toilet. So fiber is kind of the magic complex carbohydrate. Fibers are divided into two groups, soluble and insoluble. And basically all this means is solubles can be broken down to a degree and insolubles cannot. Now, even though solubles can be broken down a little bit, our body really doesn't break down fiber like it does the other nutrients. It does find it fascinating. Our small intestines like fiber, and our large intestines love fiber. In fact, fiber is one of the things that provides energy for our colonocytes or our colon cells. Fiber kind of does a little bit of everything because we have so many different types and so many different sources of fiber. We can have fiber help settle down the stomach. We can have fiber slow the uptake of blood or glucose into the blood. We can have fiber bulking up the stool. We can have fiber causing our patient to feel full longer. So what we really just are trying to do is figure out what is the job we need this fiber to do, and then selecting the correct fiber to do it. When we start talking about our diabetic patient, our obese patient, our diuretic, or not diuretic, our diarrhea patient, big difference between diarrhea and diuretic, our diarrhea patient, the answer to all of that, fiber. So we'll be talking about this quite a bit. So, big difference between how monogastric, us dogs, cats, how we use fiber, and how our polygastric animals use fiber. We're going to get into the polygastric animal here in just a minute. But yeah, two very different ways that we use fiber. We don't get any energy from fiber. We're not getting any calories. I can't go out and eat my grass out of my yard and survive and sustain myself on that. It doesn't work that way. My body uses it differently. So the primary function for us, a monogastric animal, is to increase bulk and to regulate the water content. Because my body has to work so hard to try and break it down, usually unsuccessfully, we say that it decreases a diet's digestibility. Remember, low digestible means super hard to break down. But we're also lowering the calories because we're not getting any calories from fiber. So fiber, fabulous for the treatment of obesity. I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Fiber, I feed my patient a high fiber diet. One of the reasons why weight management diets don't work is client compliance. My dog is hungry. If anyone in here has, I'm sure everyone in here has been on a diet, I'm assuming, at some point in your life. I might be wrong, but they suck. They suck. Diets are awful. You're hungry all the time. And so the same thing with our animals. Well, when our animals are hungry, what are they doing? They come and bother you. They come and worry you. And the first thing you're going to do after about 5 minutes of the is you're going to go, oh my God, fine, I'll give you more food. Bam. Our weight loss diet is no longer working. So what fiber is going to do is just basically a 3-step plan. Fiber is going to slow down the digestion. It's going to make the intestines work harder. By working harder, I am using more energy. That's number one. I don't get any calories from fiber. So I am decreasing the number of calories coming in. Those. Making my animal feel full longer. The longer that stuff sits in the small intestines, the more I get the message to my brain, don't bring anything else in. We're still working on the last one. So we have a 3-step, reason why.
Sorry, Miss Huff. Something happened with the school's Wi-Fi.
Oh no. Okay.
So
So when we are, I'll repeat, when we are discussing fiber's role in obesity. Step number 1, it increases the amount of energy being used. Number 2, it decreases the calories that are, I'll just say, coming in. And number 3, I'm going to give you a new word here. It maintains satiety, meaning feeling full. Oops, it's longer. So this is how I can help with the weight management. And when you look at the commercial, there are light foods, there are weight loss diets. This fiber is the thing that is the active, what is actively making the food work. Different types of fiber. It's going to increase how much energy the body is using. And isn't that the premise of weight loss overall? Is that you use more energy than you take in. That's kind of the whole idea. That's why you eat less. That's why you eat the salad and not the delicious high calorie stuff. You want to take in less calories than you're using because the remainder comes out of your storage unit, and we're doing it safely. We're not doing no dangerous keto diet. We're not doing anything cray-cray. We're just simply taking in less calories than we're using. This is going to help. And just a fun fact, a fun little tip, this also works for people. So if you're trying to lose those Christmas LBs, having high fiber diet, high fiber foods in your meals, they will help to make you feel full longer while not contributing the calories. So fun little diet tip for you. So if I were to ask you on a test, I'm not saying I would, but if I were to have a fill in the blank component to the test that said, discuss the role of fiber in the obesity management diet, these are the 3 steps that you would list.
So satiety, that's what that means whenever they have that on like a dog food bag. It means that it helps them feel fuller longer, like the Royal Canin.
Satiety, also satiety, they're both the correct pronunciation. It doesn't matter. It kind of depends on who taught you. Satiety just means makes them feel full. So when they say extended satiety or maintained satiety, that's just a fancy science word for makes them feel full longer. And they use
Do they make that for cats too?
Yes.
Because my cat needs.
Any of the weight loss or any of the like the diet or even the over-the-counter like adult light, the thing that makes it light, the thing that makes it weight loss is the fiber. See if I was going to go down the wrong pipe again. Ooh. All right, does anyone have any questions? Okay, Jasmine, did you miss the... Oh, Mel's getting it. Stanley, what have you done to your nose? I've been looking at you for the last 3 minutes.
I'm dying.
What is happening, my dearest?
Snot.
You have snot draining out of your face. What is wrong with you? Is your brain melting or do you have allergies? Oh, do you have the vid?
I don't know.
You don't know. Well, good luck. You look miserable.
Yeah, pretty much.
You poor thing. You need to go.
I sent it there in the message there, or in the chat, Stanley. It's all there.
So
Yes.
is I don't know how to pronounce it. Satiation and satiety the same thing?
Yeah. To be satiated means to feel fulfilled.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
If I am satiated, it's kind of what satisfied satiety. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let me get back.
Miss Huff,
Yes.
I kind of came in late. My computer died and it wouldn't turn on.
Okay.
My name's Dominica.
All right, thanks, Dominica. I got you on the roll.
Thank you.
No worries. So that's the role of fiber in the obesity management diet. Another thing, oops, chat. Next. Technology. There we go. All right. So not only can fiber help in the weight management diet, fiber can also help us out with the diabetic animal. This is amazing. So we've got two different types of diabetes. We have type 1 and type 2. I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday or the day before. I told you about that humiliating story about a friend of mine who's insulin dependent and put my foot in my mouth that day. Holy smokes. So what essentially happens? Our diabetic animal does not have insulin. What insulin is when you eat something. Here's my blood vessel. When you eat something, you're dumping glucose. So now that's an increase in blood glucose. You're dumping glucose into the blood. Well, that makes sense. That's kind of what we want to do because we need to go and deliver it to all of our cells. Insulin is what gets the glucose out of the blood and into our cells. So if we don't have insulin, we are unable to get the glucose out of the blood to pay the cells. Nobody's getting paid. And so the glucose in the blood just continues to rise, continues to rise, continues to rise. And eventually what will happen is, number one, nobody's getting paid. So no one's going to work. Everyone's going to stop working. And number two, we'll end up with so much glucose in the blood that it actually becomes toxic. It becomes like a poison. And it's going to cause your kidneys to shut down. It's going to cause your liver to shut down. It's going to cause, holy smokes, just a whole host of problems. So what we need to do is we either need to give an insulin injection, which will then allow my glucose to exit, right? Insulin's going to do that, which would then lower my blood glucose. Or another thing I can do is just slow down the rate that the glucose goes into the blood so that I don't get to that toxic level. The two different types of diabetes, one type has no insulin production at all. So this nutritional treatment wouldn't work for them. But the other type of diabetes is where they are producing some insulin, just not enough. So what we want to do is we want to slow down the rate that glucose is going into the blood. I feed fiber. Remember, our small intestines are thrilled to play with fiber. Just like in our obesity management, it keeps stuff in the intestines longer because the intestines are working so hard to break down the fiber, then they slow the uptake of glucose into the blood by slowing digestion, which will minimize that blood glucose spike. So if we look at the diabetic patient with no fiber or minimal fiber, they're just using insulin. You know, we eat a meal, their blood glucose immediately goes through the roof, but we all know what goes up must come down, and they have a massive crash. This is not what we want. What we want is where our patient eats, and then by slowing the uptake of glucose, by slowing digestion, we get a much more gentle curve. We don't get this huge toxic spike. And that's what the diabetic therapeutic diets do. They have a specific type of fiber that is doing just this. And this is really, really huge. Cats tend to have the diabetes that can sometimes be resolved with nutrition. And I think we discussed the other day just how huge that would be for our owners. If you are the owner of a diabetic cat, you're really, really limited in what you can do. You can't go on vacation anymore. You can't do anything. You got to get home, give the cat its shot. You got to wake up, give the cat its shot. And so we end up with owners that become kind of resentful. And pets that are resented are pets that get tossed out. And so if I can tell the owner that we can eliminate the need for you to give insulin simply by feeding the right food, bam, that's fabulous. That's amazing. Does anyone have any questions about so we have our fibers roll in our fibers roll in obedient, but we also have fibers roll in diabetic management. It slows digestion, which in turn slows the uptake of glucose into the blood. We're going to use some more med term, guys, which minimizes post, oops, let's spell it right, prandial blood glucose spikes. What is postprandial? So we know
It's
what
after something.
pregnancy?
it is after something. So
After pregnancy?
it's not not pregnancy. That's a great guess, but not pregnancy after.
Eating.
Yeah,
Eating.
prandial is to eat. So this minimizes those blood glucose spikes after the animal is finished eating. So if I were to ask you a fill in the blank or short answer question, what is fiber's role in the diabetic management diet? It slows down digestion, which in turn will slow the uptake of glucose into the blood, which minimizes those postprandial or after eating blood glucose spikes. Does that make sense to everybody why that's working? Fantastic. All right. Okay. All right. So now we're just going to
Oh,
touch.
quick question.
What question?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, so for our test, do you think we should just study the PowerPoints and the book too? Or what do you recommend
Yeah,
us
I would
doing?
definitely study, as I've always said, the PowerPoint, and then always follow up and review the material that's in the textbook.
Okay, thank you.
My PowerPoints are usually pretty all-inclusive, but I do give you fair and forewarning that anything in the textbook is also fair game. So definitely go back in, although the information in the textbook is like 2 paragraphs long. So just always do review the information from the PowerPoint in the textbook in Big Bertha. All right, let's talk about cows. Cows are also aliens. They are delicious. But yeah, they are pretty alien. They are polygastric. And the way that their nutritional digestive system work is different completely than us dogs and cats. What do cows eat?
Grass.
They eat grass. How many calories do you think are found in grass?
Very little.
Little to none. I now have a 4, 5, 6, 700-pound cow using a lot of energy. But they are on a diet that doesn't bring in any energy. That's weird. So how do they get, if they're eating food that contains no calories, how are they getting the energy they need to continue to be alive?
Them regurgitating it, maybe?
That is part of it.
The fiber in the grass?
No.
So
So the bacteria that they have.
it's all of the three that you've just said, mainly the bacteria. Cows have, well, any polygastric animal, but we'll just talk about cows. Cows have a very special colony of bacteria in their gut. And what happens is I send the fiber in, and they have 4 chambers. They have 3 false chambers or 3 false stomachs or 4 stomachs and 1 true stomach. And what happens is the grass spends time mainly in the first 2 chambers. They then regurgitate it, they re-chew it, which breaks down cellulose, which is a form of sugar. But the cellulose is not what they're using. They need glucose. But that's why they re-chew it. They're breaking down that plant cellulose. They re-swallow it. Well, do I have anybody in class? I'm not even sure. Anybody who knows anything about brewing beer? Or any kind of alcohol?
I know it has to go through like fermentation and stuff.
Bam, Chloe, you just said the word. You said the F word.
Fermentation.
Fermentation. What happens during fermentation is glucose production. That's why alcohols, not distilled, but brewed like beers and wine, have such a high calorie content. Through the fermentation process, it's producing glucose. It's also producing gas, which is why cows are constantly burping and farting. You ever heard that old wives' tale or the old conspiracy theory that the ozone layer of our planet is disappearing because of the methane, the farts of the cows? It's not exactly what's happening, but it is why cows are constantly releasing gas, because the fermentation process that they're going through in their gut, the bacteria is now causing the fermentation, which is producing the glucose, which is what is allowing the cow to have the energy to be alive. If the cow, for some reason, this is something you're going to really kind of touch on when you get into food animal class and when you get out to the farm, because I have to be really, really, really super careful as to what kind of antibiotics I give these animals. Because if I give this cow an antibiotic and it kills off all the bacteria in its gut, guess what can't happen?
It won't be able to break down the fiber that it needs to do.
Can't ferment the fiber. It's the bacterial process that ferments the fiber. And without the fermentation, we don't have glucose production. So even though the cow may be eating the same amount, no worries. Without that bacteria colony, they don't have the glucose production and they'll starve to death even though they're eating as much as they once did. Now, just for interest's sake, this has nothing to do with nutrition, but just kind of for interest, we can actually take the bacteria from a healthy cow and transplant it into the sick cow. It's not like blood where you have to, make sure it's the right type and the right RH factor. Bacteria, cow bacteria is cow bacteria. So I can just reach into one cow, grab the bacteria, and dump it into a second cow and have them create a brand new bacterial colony. So it's kind of cool. They have donor cows. Usually every major university will have a bacterial flora donor cow, and they got a big hole in their side. And you reach into the side of the animal and you pull out the stuff. It's pretty crazy. Pretty cray-cray. In fact, yeah, I want to show you guys something cool. Give me just 1 second.
Ag Week TV, sponsor.
All right. I want to show you what I'm talking about just for fun. Oh, I am going to go